Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Yes, quite. I'm often too loud on that. Now tell me about your week, beloved.
Well, it's been a bit of a week. I'll start with the good stuff. I think I'm finding podcast recordings are giving me a bit of a shape and structure of the week. So I have this one on Thursday morning. I have my client one straight after that, although not many clients are turning up at the moment, but I'm still there in case they do. And then I do Andy's webinar in the afternoon, and he did a very interesting one on Tuesday all about health and immune systems. I thought I was going to find it really boring, but I found it really interesting. And he shared the vitamins supplements that he's getting his family onto so they're better prepared in case the COVID visits them, as he put it. Then I've got my Right Club thing on Wednesdays. So I've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I've got a podcast or a webinar every day. And I'm trying to sign up for a few more. There was one Libsyn were running this morning. Obviously, it clashed with ours, but they're running one this morning on how to use audio snippets to promote your podcast. I think I probably know how you do it anyway, but it's just the actual doing of it that's the challenge. What else is happening? Oh my God, I've got a new addiction. It's so bad. If you go to YouTube, Nelson put me onto this, and I spent all day yesterday because I spend quite a lot of time watching what Bitcoin's doing because I'm trading crypto, and it's about as exciting as watching paint dry. But you do have to pay attention. You can't go off and do something like write a screenplay or anything because you forget to look back. And yes, you can set alerts and things, but it's better if you're watching it, especially if you're trading in and out on a day-to-day basis. So I need something to do that's entertaining, that I can flick quickly backwards and forwards from, and doesn't make me forget. And this thing is it, right? Be prepared, everybody. You're going to get completely hopelessly addicted. It's called Primitive Tech Videos, and Primitive Technology. Go to search, and it started with, and you've probably seen it, Judith, a little Indian chap building a well or a swimming pool with his bare hands in the Indian bush. And it's grown into, there's an American or an English guy, I don't know, he never speaks. And he's the original Primitive Technology channel. And then there are two Asian guys who wear beige shorts. They're both exactly the same looking. They build incredible houses. They build wells. They build filtration systems. Basically, it's all everything you need to know to be a primitive survivalist in the bush.
Yeah.
And then there's these other guys who are there's the two Asian guys. Then there's two Indian guys, and they specialise in building luxury 5-star homes underground with swimming pools and skylights, and it's all hacked out of the earth. And I don't know why it's so compelling. I'm pretty sure I could start a fire now, though, and it's so compelling to watch it because they speed it up, obviously.
Yes.
But it's just watching someone creating the most amazing things that humans need to live out of their bare hands. They don't even bring tools. Some of them have got machetes, but I prefer the ones where they actually go and find a flint and then use that flint to start chopping things down and making the things they need. I mean, I probably could make a clay pot and fire it in a fire now as well. So I'm getting there on the survivalist stuff, but it's so peaceful and gripping at the same time, because I suppose in this day and age you sort of are thinking, well, what if we did all have to go back to the land? And the thought that you could just find a stone in a stream and chop it in, throw it against another stone and make a flint, and then make an axe, and then go and find vines and make pots, and it's just.
I mean, I know you're not thinking about this seriously, but in all seriousness, those of us who've used our computers for our adult lives, or as long as they've existed, we don't have any of these skills. Would you want to survive in that kind of way?
No, I wouldn't, because there'd be a lot of insects, and I'm not very insect friendly, as you know. In fact, Nelson had to rescue. He actually sent us a little video from the bathroom the other night showing us that a rather large spider had popped out from under the bath. And he said, I could just imagine if you had been sitting there while that happened.
Yeah.
But he threw it out the window, bless him.
Well, I don't think you'd necessarily be in the bath. You'd be in a sort of post-apocalyptic showroom where you and Nelson and Phoebe were huddled round a little shelter somewhere, and you hew the pot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I do have friends and clients whose other half has these skills.
Well, apparently it's a hobby for men, and they, none of these guys live out in the wild. They just go and visit places at weekends and create. I mean, honestly, just go and have a look at some of them. The ones where they create places to live and pots, and how there was one where he set up a dam in a stream, and then he wove a net out of split bamboo and caught fish to eat. And I just thought, it's just so peaceful yet reassuring to watch it. Anyway, I'm completely hooked. It's terrible. Okay. I could watch hours and hours. And I even cooked risotto last night so I could stand and stir it while I was watching. And then finally, of course, just before I went to bed last night, the BBC briefing said that we might be in lockdown till the end of the year. And I'm just, I texted you, and you've got thoughts about it, whether you want to share them or not. Go ahead if you want to, because it threw me for a six. It really did.
I don't want to talk about it. No, I don't. Well, suffice to say, and it might calm you down a bit. I don't believe a word of it.
What, that we need to?
Don't take me. Okay. Don't take me up on it, because then we'll go into a debate, and I don't want to debate it.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't know what to think anymore. I mean, I watched your Hollywood thing you put out. What was the name of that video you shared on your timeline? About Hollywood. Anyway, I watched it and I thought,
Out of Shadows.
Yeah, I thought the three people in it were pretty credible people, all separate and all coming to the same conclusions separately. And I thought they were very credible. So I don't know what to think about anything anymore. So that was my week. No. Confused and not normal at all. How about you?
Can you hear me in real time?
Yes.
Okay, good. I've got 7 little things to tell you here. Uh-huh. One of the main silver lining of lockdown for me has been this jolly little trio with these 2 23-year-olds who live next door. And we're splitting up this week because he's been called back to his job, and she's the girlfriend and doesn't want to stay in the big house next door by herself, because I think she thinks that would be taking advantage. So we had a farewell dinner up the big house last night, which was... So I've been out to dinner in lockdown, which is quite impressive. Yeah. It was a sort of it was a farewell celebration. It was a commemoration of how chummy we've got and how much we care about each other now. And it's my birthday on Monday. And if they both go their separate ways on Friday and Saturday, I'll be here alone. So I'd already bought a birthday cake, Colin the Caterpillar from Waitrose. So we had delicious steak and Colin the Caterpillar and ice cream for pudding. And last weekend, the three of us went out on the first outing I've been out on in 7 weeks. We went to the petrol station for air in my tyres, because one or other of them or both of them might need me to drive them somewhere in order to go back to their lives, one an airport and one a bus station. And then they wanted to go to Waitrose. And of course, because they're quite young and fit, they stand outside Waitrose in a queue, socially distanced, ready to go in. And I sat in the car listening to Classic FM, because I don't actually want to go into Waitrose. Thank you very much. No. I bought myself a very nice present this week from an organic beauty company called Neom, Neom, and it's magnesium body butter. And I was so thrilled about it that I got up off the settee when my little friend from next door was here in an enthusiastic thing to show her about it, tripped over the rug and nearly smashed my head open on the marble island in the kitchen. I mean, if I hadn't been able to save myself, or if she hadn't been here, and I don't know what would have happened, to be honest. I think it was just a divine intervention, as one of my pals said. Yeah. And similarly to Andy, and because I've learnt it from all of the whistleblowing doctors, I'm on vitamins A, B, C, D, zinc, magnesium, and apple cider vinegar, and I feel absolutely fab. And why I don't keep this regime up normally, I do not know. You kind of normally...
fortune.
Well, it's not terribly expensive, but I think that normally I'm unconvinced of the benefits of
I
vitamins.
Usually think if you eat well, you don't need supplements.
Yeah, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced I eat well enough not to need supplements. But first of all, David Wilcock got me on 10,000 IUs of vitamin D, and he says if you take that, you'll never be ill ever again. But you have to have zinc with that. And I couldn't get vitamin C initially because everybody bought vitamin C at the beginning of this. All I could get was Barocco, which is chock full of bees, which would be useful if you ever go away on holiday. And what's this one here? Vitamin A, yes. Then somebody said you have to have that. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
I'm rattling like a good one, actually, but I'm quite enjoying it. It's quite fun.
Yeah,
I've experienced...
I'm on A, C, and D, and I've been told that all women should be on iodine because it's very good for you in lots of ways. Apparently.
Do you mean like you mean iron? You mean iron?
No, I mean iodine. You know, like the stuff that comes from seaweed.
Iodine is brown.
Yeah, well, it comes in pill form.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to get some of that as well.
Okay. I'm experiencing a mild regret that I didn't journal the lockdown story in real time, because when we started, me and my next door neighbours, we were a bit suspicious of each other, and they were. Do you remember? I was a little bit worried that they were coming in and out rather too often with their. Yeah, it's a gorgeous story, actually. But I don't want to write it from memory because I don't really have a memory. So it's a mild regret I didn't do that. And when I put that on Facebook, I got lots of free advice about doing it retrospectively, which doesn't and wouldn't work for me. But that doesn't mean I wasn't. I just think I should be. These are exceptional times, I might start journaling. And I'm moving my office up to the big house if and when it's empty next week. There's some uncertainty about whether both of them are moving on this week or next now. But as soon as they're gone, I'm going to put my desk up there and have my computer up there and have a desk for the first time for as long as I can remember. And you can't do proper work like journaling or handwriting, or even the show notes for this are quite tricky when I do it on my lap, literally on my lap. So I'm looking forward to that, and it means I can use the washing machine while I'm up there without disturbing anybody. Not that they would mind, it's just I don't like to creep in and out of their house when they're sleeping or whatever. And finally, I'm getting used to my longer hair because it's gone past that point where it's really annoying in the middle, and now it's just long. But I did cave in and order some hairbands, which I think are coming today with some other
pictures.
Some other vitamin I think I've got coming today as well. I can't remember what it is now. Oh no, it's Ocado didn't provide the ibuprofen yesterday, so I had to get supplies from elsewhere.
Oh, okay.
But actually, a jolly week, another jolly week with like 4 days of sunshine in a row.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been a jolly week here too. Until last night, it was just.
You and I were talking earlier briefly on typing. I mean, the worst about first world problems. The worst problem we've got here is we desperately need the gardener to come back to work because my hair's long and the garden's grown in. Yeah, well, it's the same thing. Things grow, and things grow better in sunshine.
Yeah, that's true. We got 4 days of glorious weather, better than Ibiza apparently.
Yes, I know, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Which is driving the children to a bit of mild despair, but we'll be out, in the pub gardens and having a lovely social life right now.
Yes.
Anyway, that is first world problems, isn't it?
Tell me if anything has fueled your fire.
Well, yeah, something has actually, mildly. I don't know if I can raise more than a flicker at the moment, but it's something we've known about for a long time now. Who recommended it to me? I was trying to work out a good new brand name for my new project, and funnily enough, the one I chose came from Phoebe in the end. But Andy said, "Do you remember a book called Simpleology?" And I did remember it straight away because it was impossible to pronounce or spell. So he didn't choose a very good brand name for his thing, but it does sum it up quite well. It's by a guy called Mark Joyner, Joyner, and it's called The Irresistible Offer. And I'm pretty convinced I read it at the time, which would have been quite long ago. I seem to back in, because Paul Fugel was very keen on Simpleology for a while, wasn't he? Back when we lived at, I think it was before the Acacia. Good God. And anyway, so I've just got it again, and he's also done a free to download money guide for these times. So I would definitely go and check it out. You can get Simpleology, The Irresistible Offer, just if you Google PDF, The Irresistible Offer, and then if you go to Simpleology, the website, you can opt in to download his money guide, which I'm looking forward to reading. It's sort of a money guide for the times, generally, general, covering lots of different things. So marginally flickered into having my fire fueled there.
Okay.
What about you?
I have permission to share, albeit anonymously, an unsolicited testimonial. No. My first big commitment was to a coach. I thought it was business, but it's the human mental support and growth. 5 years later, this is still part of every month. Without that, nothing would have changed to the degree it has. I've taken business courses as well and kept growing and adding to what I do. The capacity to change and keep going through all of it in a way that works for you is essential in all of this. You have to accept the parts of you don't like. Recognize your own strengths, know where you need to learn, understand what holds you back. It's the biggest and best learning curve ever, but I need to feel I'm not alone with that part. Individual and very personal sessions with Judith has been the one constant which has helped me through all of it.
Wow.
Well, it's one of the best testimonials I've ever had, I think, isn't it?
I think so. It's
a corker. Yeah, it does.
And it really shows how, even if you're doing courses, having the personal, someone to talk
the support,
about
yes.
your own situation is so
yes. And also it lets me off the hook of having to teach them absolutely everything.
Yes.
Because there isn't time for that in an hour a month.
Well, also, yes, I mean, I'm tending to do that now because I can't be bothered to keep all my training materials up to date. So I just refer people off to the best things I know.
Resource, yes.
And apart from the Be Everywhere Online, which is pretty universal principles, really. It's not technology dependent. So, yeah, so I just send people, depending on where they are in their situation, to the best people I know that are out there. So I can just focus on exactly like what you're talking about, just talking to them about their situation.
Yes, and helping them help themselves to the best resource. Yeah. And last night on my forum, one of my forums, which is being led by a retired American IFA who's quite old now. I think he's probably, if not in his late 60s, I think in his probably 70s, maybe even older than that. But he's still got all his marbles and he's documented everything he needs us to know. And it's all pinned in a place where we could all access it. But it doesn't stop the people asking over and over and over and over again for the same information. And last night he got a little bit cross and he said, I can't keep answering these same questions over and over. All the answers are in the documents I've created for you and they're there. Go and access it yourself. He wasn't really cross. He was just, I mean, it's absolutely true. I can, he says, I cannot keep answering over and over the questions I've already answered. Go and help yourself to the documents and stop being so, I suppose, needy.
Helpless.
Yes.
Helpless. I mean, that's what that whole thing of, shall I Google that for you? So.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
I feel that quite often. I just send a little message to Marion when somebody else somewhere else. Do you know, I think when people ask Facebook for the answer to something I know the answer to, if I'm cross with them, I just send them a link. But actually, I think they do. I think extroverts do it they're calling for community. They're saying, I know I could go to Google, but actually I don't want to do that by myself. It's a bit lonely. Let's open a conversation about the resource I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Because, they see it as content, don't they?
I think they just see it as, I think the more sociable, the less self-sufficient, the more open to, it's just a different operating system from you and me.
Yeah.
And actually, that's the funny thing I've learned about these two kids next door. They have this thing where they go, have you checked on Judith? Nobody in my adult life has ever paid as much attention to my well-being as two half strangers who live next door to me.
That's right.
And actually, I've had to learn to be happy to receive that.
Yes, because you're very independent, aren't you?
Yes, yes. I mean, virtually people are doing it as well. But these two deliberately next door. I mean, they love it because they come in for a chat and everything. Yeah. But it's on their list of things to do every day.
Oh, bless.
I know. It's so sweet.
I know what you mean, though. So, for example, when I'm going up, we go up on the roof. We've got a fairly decent staircase with, a banister. But there is stuff stored on it to the left. So there, getting my girth up past the Hoover that might topple down and bring everyone else down with me is, they're very solicitous about the last step as well because it's very high.
Yes.
I would get my leg over it. So it's like they just look after me on the way up and down.
Yeah. And actually, if you're used to running your own life independently by yourself, and I know I've pissed off a lot of people in my lifetime by refusing their help, including my own family, I did have to learn to adapt my system when I realised that they were thinking of me as somebody they had a duty of care towards.
Yeah. Nelson's applied to be a Tesco's delivery driver because
cool.
He's got to get out of the house. He's going mad, and he needs something that's physical as well. As I said to you, he's worked very hard to get his physique up to scratch, and he's losing all that hard work over 3 years. So that'd be good for him. He likes people at a distance, a bit of hard work physically because you have to bring the stuff up to people's flats and things, and getting out and about and not being in an office. He's
making some money.
Yeah, well,
and also that usually you get first dibs for your own order. which might be useful for your family. And the Ocado people are on a pay rise for the duration of the thing as well.
Very nice. Well, fingers crossed. He's got through the first test, so fingers crossed for the rest.
I love you saying he likes people at a distance. I quite like people at a distance as well.
Well, it's nice to be able to see different people and know that you're doing a job perhaps that's helping people as well. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Did you see that my Ocado man yesterday was called Bogdan Constantin? I mean, he was a complete hero. Yeah. Claire Hambry said he must be Romanian or something like that. I saw, as soon as I saw his name, I thought, what a marvellous name that is. Really, yeah. And just like that, they're so athletic and cheery. I tell you what's making the drivers so cheery. The roads are empty.
Yes, exactly. It'd be a better time to be a delivery driver, really.
No, quite.
Okay. So, focus of the week then. Let me set this up a little bit, and then
please do. Yeah.
Say what you think as well.
Yeah.
I've been on Twitter more than normal, and the thing I've noticed about Twitter is it's very polarised. People are, they're either Democrats or Republicans, they're either Labour or Conservative, they're one or the other about everything, and everyone's got really strong opinions, and there's quite a lot of what I would call hate on it, in the fact that I protected myself from this on all the other social media channels. So, but even, people just immediately pile in with an opinion, they're critical. And the one thing I've noticed very much is that as it comes out whether people have furloughed their staff and then either applied for the government help for businesses, that the amount of vitriol poured onto people because they are perceived to be very wealthy and taking money from the government. And the idea is that, of course, the Twitterati think that they should spend their own money back into their own companies so that they can pay their own employees. And I was thinking, this was sort of rattling around in my head a little bit. And then people like Victoria Beckham has become vilified. Obviously, Richard Branson's getting vilified. And all the people like that are getting... Then there's the footballers. Now, footballers are probably a different thing because they're not keeping a business going that would otherwise close. There's lots of the retail companies absolutely closing forever, like what's her name with Kath Kidson has closed all her retail stores forever. That's, but she's keeping her internet thing going on, which I think is actually a very solid move, because lots of people, and I know someone who's actually, they've got a widget company, and they had a trade desk where people would come in and buy their widgets, but a lot of their stuff was moving online. Luckily, they were moving up with the times. And they've had to furlough just 2 people, and they've kept everybody else on to work with the, the deliveries and the internet orders. So the 2 people that were furloughed were from the trade desk, and they said because, they're paying them, so but they are going to apply so that they can have them back later, because some people will always want to go in and buy their widget from a trade desk. But if the owner of that company was perceived to be very wealthy, people would be calling for him to put his own money back into the company rather than applying for the government bailouts or whatever they're called. So I was just thinking about this, and I was thinking, we've always thought that if you hate the rich, because that is what's going on here, people absolutely hate the rich, and it's people like Terry Christian, who can't be poor himself because he's done very well out of the media for as long as I've known him. He was on telly with The Word in the 80s, and he's never stopped working since. So he's presumably quite well off. But he's calling, the baying of blood for billionaires and millionaires. And I suddenly thought, all these people who hate the rich so much are never going to become wealthy themselves. They're never going to even become well off themselves, because they're spending all their time hating the rich, hating something they presumably would like to be. So otherwise they wouldn't be buying lottery tickets. And then I had a little chat with you about it, and I sort of said, I can't believe the hate that's going on. And then you sent me an article about Billionaires, which I think we should share in the show notes, because it was a very good article.
I'll write that note here. Okay.
And then I wanted to really talk to you about it. How did you used to feel about rich people? How do you feel about very rich people now? What are your thoughts on it all?
Well, I've got several thoughts by way of preamble. One is, do you remember I've been saying to you for quite some time, I don't like going on Twitter. It's such a horrible place full of nasty, dark emotions. Well, and you always say you curate your thing. So I wonder why you've started noticing it.
Because I'm paying more attention to news and and also
Yeah.
politics, I suppose.
Yes. I totally agree with you. That's something that we learnt and taught as part of the Money Gym, and I still hold to this view today, is you can't hate anything to do with wealth and rich people if you aspire to become that yourself. It just isn't. There's no woo-woo in that. It's quite the opposite. But fun facts. There's a playlist on Spotify called Songs to Hate the Rich to.
No.
So if anybody does hate the rich, feel free. Your soundtrack is awaiting at Spotify. Now, before we start, think of Les Mis. One of the leading figures of the French Revolution was a chap called Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and he said, "When the people shall have nothing more to eat, they will eat the rich." And several artists, musical artists, have had hit songs with called "Eat the Rich," including Motorhead and Aerosmith. So the only reason I believe that lockdown is working is that we're not hungry.
Yeah, I totally agree.
If we were hungry, we'd be angry and we'd be out in the streets with pitchforks.
It's not going to be very long before.
Well, exactly right. And that's what Jean-Jacques Rousseau was saying. If we run out of food, us middle class and poor people, they're going to eat the rich people, which means they're going to be out there attacking them. So I think the hate is bubbling under the surface always. And of course, in Britain, we've got this class system, which is more prevalent than in other countries, perhaps. So I don't hate rich people, but I strongly approve of some of their behaviours when it offends my sense of fair play. So, for instance, I don't think it was in that article that we're about to share, but I've read somewhere, they lay off their entire staff just as they pay themselves a thunking great multi-million-pound bonus. I just think that's, I don't know what we call it anymore.
Immoral.
Tone deaf or something. I don't know what we call it. Well, it is immoral, yes, but we've got some lukewarm, silly expression we use for it. And I think the reasons we hate them, if we do, is those of them that are greedy and cheat on their taxes and have no sense of fair play, no duty to their fellow man or community or employee. So, for instance, I love and use Starbucks and Amazon, but the way the companies handle their staff and pay them and reward their CEOs and founders and what their founders do with their humongous wealth and how they don't pay tax fairly in any or all of their territories, that they trade in. I think that's just egregious. I mean, it's and also so visible in the public eye now in what's reported, that you can't want us to support your brand if you are not a good brand ambassador, or if we hate you.
Yeah, because obviously I want to touch on the limited company thing. There's two things here, but in that, why would a company not be tax efficient if it's legal? Well,
Nicola, there's tax efficient and tax efficient. Okay,
I know.
So companies like Google and Starbucks pay less than you and me.
Tax avoidance, that is, isn't it?
Well, it's no. I'm sure they're using legal things, and the point there is that international governments are sucking up to them, and I believe that's actually true. I think that if you are somebody that's as important to the economy as they are, you go to the HMRC and tell them what you'll pay, not the other way around.
Yeah, and you can choose which country to domicile. I mean,
well, that's not fair.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not fair. So I need to keep going, if that's all right.
Yeah, okay.
So to me, it's obvious that some of these people that are more easy to hate, perhaps, think that wealth equals power, and the power to take roles and responsibilities and actions in the world for which they're not democratically elected. And I'm just going to name two by name here. So Bill Gates wants to vaccinate everybody except his own family, and George Soros funds everything, including crashing the pound in Britain in the when was that? The 90s. And then, there's a rich people funding everything fishy. They're funding everything fishy that we don't like the look of. So they don't bother to hide their eugenics or their anti-democratic antics. And it's like, we haven't given you any power at all, but you've assumed it because of your wealth. So my view is, if they behave well with values and fairness, we don't hate them. If they don't, then they deserve all the bad press and bad tweets they get from the Terry Christians of the world. And, I think we're all accountable for our actions. And those that believe they are beyond that are drunk on the power they erroneously believe that their wealth entitles them to. It does not. So I think it's not their wealth per se that people hate, but the way they behave with it. And in the context of, and it's a word you've used in this podcast recently, poverty, unfairness and despair. So those of us who are anxious about, if we're not going to get any pay from our employer or from the government, how are we going to feed ourselves the month after next? And you see these people behaving against the context of people behaving, that article talked about when there was a discussion at Davos between the super rich that somebody floated the idea they should contribute more, they laughed. I mean, it's unacceptable arrogance. And, going back to the Rousseau quote, if I was one of the selfish, greedy, high-profile rich, I'd be afraid, very afraid, that pitchforks would be at the door of my gated community, especially as people get poorer and hungrier the longer the lockdown goes on. So that's my rant about it. Now, take me on.
Well, no, okay, so let's just, I totally agree with you, by the way, all of that.
I know.
You articulated it very, very well.
Well, I had to think about it because it's actually quite important, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there's two things to think about. The limited company, if you've got a limited company, the whole point of having a limited company is this, that if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, you can close it down and start again.
And limit the personal liability. That's the point of a limited company.
Yeah. Well, so people are expecting all these so-called rich people in without actually having any idea of their personal circumstances. And I've had some personal experience.
I certainly agree with that.
That people, let's take Victoria Beckham as an example. Well, no, let's not, because she's not a good example, because she probably has got quite enough money, but she probably isn't super rich on her own thing. It's more Beckham, I would think, that's got the actual cash rolling in.
I do understand that actually her business hasn't made a profit very much, and he does shore it up, I think.
Yeah, so all of these people calling for Victoria Beckham to put her own money into shore her own company up and not take money from the government, they are barking up the wrong tree there, because she probably doesn't have a huge personal wealth to put in, does she?
I think she's got plenty. I just think that her business isn't very profitable.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing about taking government handouts, however, on whatever basis you're allowed to take it as an employer or as an employee or as a self-employed person, is that she and me and you, we've all paid in plenty for precisely these circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. And the other side of it is that nobody's actually had any money from the government yet. I don't know.
Well, not in England we haven't, but they have in America. The Americans have been much more efficient about this than we have.
Well, they've had $1,200.
Yeah, but they're going to get much more than that soon. They've passed more legislation. They've made more money available. $1,200 within the first month isn't bad, Nicola. If you and I'd had that, we'd be very pleased.
Yes, well, I mean, obviously, and I think actually that if anyone's offered money from the government, they should bloody well take it.
So I agree. So, I can't imagine anybody wouldn't take it.
And then. So the thing is that, as I think you're absolutely right, it's all very well to say 3 weeks, then 3 weeks. I mean, when this started, I thought 12 weeks, immediately. But if they're now saying the end of the year, how are people going to live? How are they going to feed themselves? I got offered a credit card holiday yesterday, but if I could freeze payments for up to 3 months if I felt the need, but the interest would carry on accruing, and I'm not sure what happens at the end of the 3 months, because I didn't take them up on it, whether you have to pay all of the 3 months. That's what they're saying in America, is that if you take any holiday on your mortgage or anything like that, the interest continues to accrue, and you then have to catch up at the end of the 3 months.
Yeah, well, that will change, and the only thing that they'll have to change that, because it's completely unrealistic, and the only way for that to be resolved is to add it on to the end.
Yeah. Yes, of course, but the people are still paying a penalty there in terms of added interest on the money. I
think that will all change. I think that these are exceptional circumstances. We've got many, many, many issues to resolve between us as a human race, and the initial knee-jerk responses are not well thought through.
Yeah, by the companies, that's for sure.
Or by anybody, because the people that are trying to think them through are also human beings in lockdown and worried about their futures and their families and their children.
Yeah. So
going back to Victoria Beckham for a minute, she's presumably, I don't know where her fashion business is based. I don't know whether, for instance, whether she has is it?
Yeah.
Because she lives in LA. Surely there must be a foreign branch, several foreign branches, I would think, as well.
Foreign branches.
Yeah, and I think when you're an employer in the UK, for instance, you do pay in. If you've got employees, you've got to pay employers' national insurance, which is quite a lot. You have to pay pensions for them these days, which is quite a lot. I'm not siding with her particularly, but I know the business isn't profitable. It's difficult to trade any business as a profit when you've got those taxes on employing people. So if she can get any money back, good on her.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's what the people on Twitter don't realise. It's actually very expensive to employ people. If she's furloughing them, then she's probably not got massive cash well, you said she's not profitable, so she can't have cash reserves.
No, she's got no cash reserves. I agree.
And so why do people assume that she's got immense personal?
Well, most of the people commenting on Twitter don't know anything about how to run a business, do they, for a start? Now, let's talk about Terry Christian. I bet he spent most of his money because he hasn't been famous recently. The footballers, what's the situation with them? Are they not being paid?
No, they're some of them. Most of them are still being. They're on. I think a lot of them are furloughed now, which means
so they're on 80%. So the government will be subsidising the club that owns them.
Yes, but the problem most people have, which I totally agree with, is that they're paid ridiculous sums of money.
Yes, no, I actually don't have any sympathy for the footballers at all.
No, but they should get something, obviously.
But they will have spent everything they've earned, I can tell you that for nothing.
Yeah. And unless they're very sensible, which is unlikely.
Well, they're rare. 10% of them might not have. Yeah.
So anyway,
but it's difficult to feel sorry for a footballer. Sorry. Yeah. It just is.
I just wanted to have a good conversation about the hate.
Well, here we go. It's difficult to feel sorry for a footballer, but I don't hate them.
Okay, that's good.
However, if their football club is owned by a Russian oligarch and he's channeling any profits he makes from Chelsea Football Club out of the UK, then I would find it easier to hate him.
Yes.
I don't even know that he still owns Chelsea, to be honest, but you know what I'm saying? I think I love people like Graham Norton, who says, why wouldn't you want to pay tax in the UK? It's a great place to live, and I want to make sure there are enough nurses for everybody and that I can express my opinion, and when I turn the tap on, water comes out that I can drink.
Yes.
It's a privilege to pay tax if you get your mindset right. This thing about avoiding it is just bonkers. It's about greed.
Yeah. Good. So are we done on the hate the rich then? Let's
just think. I'm done on it. I don't hate them. I totally agree with you that if we want to become wealthy, we cannot hate them. What I think is important is if and when any of us ever become wealthy, and I'm sure the world looks very different when you do, there's a moral responsibility to behave fairly.
Yeah, I think that's the key word, isn't it? Fair, But then if we all carry on like this and it becomes more feudalistic, as the Kaiser report keeps talking about, where the middle classes just disappear and serfs and overlords.
Yes.
Then the fair rich people are going to get swept away in the revolution the same as the unfair rich people, aren't they? Because
yeah. So actually, there's a lever. The fair rich people could bring their influence to bear. I don't think they'll be. It's really not rich. It's like super rich, as that article called it. It's like where you've got more money than you or any generation of your family could ever spend. And why, therefore, do you need to keep hoarding it when you could do so much good with it in the world? I mean, if and when I ever become rich, I want to become, a philanthropist.
Yes.
Or a humanitarian or a generous person who loves secret millionairing.
Yes, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Secret
millionairing. Wouldn't that be fun?
That'd be lovely. Oh, okay. Yes, that's good. Okay, I think we've done that one then.
I do think it's about the haves and the have-nots and the gap widening and widening and widening.
Yes. And the only thing that's going to save them is a universal basic income. That's the only thing.
I think that's probably highly likely, to be honest with you.
Well, let's bloody hope so.
Very soon.
Lightly, yeah.
And I think that's what Hugh, in that video that you sent me, Hugh, whatever his name is, who was reading out the news, I think that's what he's prepping you for with all of those dramas.
Right. I can't believe nobody's talking about that this morning. Mind you, I haven't managed to get on any news channel on my...
I haven't watched any of those briefings or the news for 6 weeks.
I haven't. That's why I was so shocked when I saw...
Yeah, well, don't do it, Nicola. Look what it does to you.
Well, I'm fine now, but I just was so shocked when I first looked at it. I thought, I can't believe nobody's talking about this.
Once they sort the problems out, there'll be a magical cure. Okay?
Oh, right. Word of the week then.
Yeah, you go.
Discombobulated.
Oh, yeah, it's a good word. I love that word.
That's how I felt this last... Well, not last week. I've been fine this last week. This last 24 hours, shall we say.
Yeah.
What about you?
Quarantine. Do you know what it means?
No.
It means 40 days, as in 40 days and 40 nights. And it goes back to the 14th and 15th century when ships were required to be isolated for 40 days before passengers and crew could go ashore during the Black Death plague epidemic. You can also have a Trentino, which is the same thing but for 30 days. And typically it relates to ships who've been at sea for a long time and they've all got, I don't know, scurvy or whatever they've all got.
Yeah,
I don't think scurvy is catching, but they've come into port with something catching and they
yeah.
have to stay aboard for 40 days, quarantine, to not bring it to those of us on land who don't have it.
Well, there you go. There's lots of cruise ships still around the world.
There's also a bit of God in there, 40 days and 40 nights, obviously.
Yeah, that's probably why they chose it, wasn't it?
I don't know. I think it's interesting how words come into use. This is the 14th and 15th century, Venetian use of the word quarantine, and we still use it today.
Yeah,
I'm loving all of these words it's throwing up for me to look up in the dictionary every week. Loving it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so project updates then.
No, I think never again, frankly. Well, because it's a full-time emotional job keeping yourself on an even keel sometimes, isn't it?
Yes, I've got to meditate straight away after
Yes, exactly.
The worse I feel, the longer I have to meditate.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, well, I'm ready to announce my my thing.
Oh, good. What name did you decide upon?
My moneygenius.club. Because what's happened is, that I've got a lot of stuff from the Money Gym, and you also know that I cannot advertise it at all. Well, I give Phoebe we have lots of chats about the way money works because she doesn't have a clue, bless her. Well, she's a smart cookie, but she picks it up quick. But they don't get taught it at school, and I've got all this stuff in my head. And she's starting to make some really good money now. So I'm trying to steer her towards a cash flow forecast and, actually keeping good records and all that stuff. And then she's got a mate who said, starting a business, and she said, do I need to be a limited company yet? So we had a good conversation about that. And then we had another mate who said, I want to start a blog and, what name shall I choose and everything. So these kids are really starting to come through now, the entrepreneurial ones. And I thought, I've got all this great information that, the Money Gym book, the Money Gym Audible, but I can't advertise it. I can't promote it. I can't do anything except with organic social media. We know how far that gets nowadays. So I thought, Greg actually has been saying to me for a little while, why don't you just rebrand it all? And I just couldn't bring myself to do it because, being a creator, it's not new, it's not exciting, it's, it's old, but it's so needed. These kids have got no idea. So we were trying to think about what would be a good name. And the other thing is Phoebe's got, 23,000 followers on Twitter or something. She's got a big social media following. And, she's becoming an influencer now. And people are starting to ask her to do collabs, they're called, where they promote each other and stuff. So I just thought, I was saying to her, what if I was going to reach the younger people rather than older people with the content from the Money Gym rebranded as something else, how would be the best way to disseminate it? And she said, well, the only thing we wouldn't look at emails, so there's no point in getting us to opt in. But if you set up a group they're all using WhatsApp and Telegram now because they're private. Telegram even more so than WhatsApp apparently. And so she said you'd have to set up a Telegram group. That's the only way. And she was funny you should mention about the chap who had all the documents pinned at the beginning of.
Well, that's where I get all my forums are on Telegram.
Right. Well, that's what she was saying. So and it turns out she knows it inside out because she's in forums herself. So she was saying we need a rules document pinned at the top.
Yes.
We need bots set up to deliver the rules when people first join. Yeah. And she sets it all up for me. I've got a brand new mindgenius.club Telegram group. I might do it on Facebook as well. I might do a Facebook group on because a lot of the older people are on there. So it'll be.
So you're not just targeting at the kids; you want the old people as well.
Well, the thing is, I was talking to Greg quite a long time the other day about what I can do that I'm passionate about, that I can do effortlessly, and which will bring the most value. And I think perhaps repurposing the Money Gym content for the youngsters and older people, possibly ladies, or even just people who've lost their job and need to get online. It's the basic questions, and I actually really enjoy helping people with the basic questions. So the format of the new moneygenius.club is that they're going to be able to pay £20 a month and just ask any questions they like. So it's all about money questions. And I've been looking up what people are asking. That thing, Answer the Public.
Yes.
And seeing what people are actually asking about money. And people are more increasingly wanting to know how money works, what will happen if we go digital, what will happen if we don't go back to work as soon as everyone thinks, how are we going to live, etc. And I just thought,
I'd like to make one recommendation.
Yeah, go on then.
I don't think moneygenius.com will fool Facebook at all. I think you should give Facebook a wide berth and go straight to Telegram and force the people to learn how to use it. It's a very shallow learning curve, Telegram.
Is it? Well,
yeah.
It wasn't with me, but there we go.
Well, that's only the setup. I mean, to use it is exactly the same as Messenger.
So that's it, really. So if anyone's listening and they fancy getting questions answered specific to their situation, I'm not saying I've got all the answers. I'm saying I've got a team of experts I can call on. So,
and is there a way of answering questions all day long on a website if you want to, like one of those chat things we always used to use?
Well, I think isn't Telegram that thing?
Well, then they've got to find out about it, haven't they, at your website and then go to Telegram?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not suggesting you shouldn't do it. I'm just suggesting that there might be the second route. I would honestly give Facebook a wide berth altogether.
Okay, all right.
I don't think changing Jim to Genius is going to fool Facebook at all.
Well, no, but it's a different domain name.
But they know you. The point is they know you and they want to block you doing anything to do with money. That's what I think.
True.
I know you say we shouldn't personalise it, but actually, for some unknown, I wouldn't even waste any iota of anything trying to get, because you'll just end up frustrated. If you go straight to these clean places and that are private, I think it's a better use of your time.
Well, I'm hoping that word of mouth will spread the word. If I do a good job of supporting people find the answers, and then word of mouth will spread it.
Yes.
And lots of influencers have massive followings, so that'll be, it'll only take a endorsement from one of them and I'll be away.
Okay, good.
Phoebe is already nearly a huge influencer herself, so so that's what I've been working on recently. So,
and is the website ready for us all to visit? Excellent.
Moneygenius.club.
And you've done it with your Thrive thing?
I've done it with Thrive, and if people want to become affiliates, I can set you up with affiliate links and customized landing pages. So I haven't put the affiliates page up yet, but I will do today.
What are you giving away to the affiliates? We're talking about
affiliates. Oh, yeah. Well, that'll depend on the size of your following. Phoebe negotiated me higher. It was quite funny, actually, because I said, I'll give you 10%. And she was like, oh, okay, then. And then she thought about it overnight. And she came back and she thought, well, actually, you're getting access to my audience. So I think I'd like more than 10%.
Yes, good for her. Good for her.
And I thought, oh, you little minx. But then paved in, obviously. So that's that. So who or what's impressed this week?
All my new internet heroes, the whistleblowing truth-telling doctors, Dr. Shiva, Dr. Naputi, Dr. Buttar, many more citizen journalists who take their cameras into public places to show what's really happening in hospitals and public spaces, as opposed to what the mainstream news is telling us is happening. All the opinion pieces about the surrender of our civil liberties and the political and other agendas at play. I've collected all of these new people I follow: Dave Cullen, David Wilcock, Liz Crokin. Liz Crokin was in that film Out of Shadows. Yeah. Timothy Holseth, truth tellers at some risk to themselves, documentary filmmakers breaking the silence. Lockdown has turned me into a YouTube video watcher with hours and hours invested into it now that I never had time for it before. I realized, when somebody sent me a video, that even the one you sent me this morning, I watched like 90 seconds and I thought, I haven't got 9 minutes for this. It's like I've always made that judgment, but now I have got time to watch things I'm interested in. And of course, I don't need to watch a talking head. I can turn it down and listen, which is, I prefer it. But, what I don't understand is why do so many people broadcast from their cars? Is it because they've got a thing that holds their iPhone while they're talking?
It's because, yes, that is, and because they're using what they see as dead time driving.
No, they're not driving. They're sitting somewhere usually, I find, when they're making these speeches.
That's the only way they can get privacy.
Maybe.
If
yes.
You can't record at home because there's too many.
Maybe. If they're a whistleblower, they might be doing it secretly as well. That's the only thing. That's the only great mystery of our time. But our listeners might tell me why they think the answer is to that if they broadcast from their car. What about you?
Well, I'd just like to say anyone who is carrying on as normal, I salute you. Because I simply do not feel normal this week.
No, I agree with you.
Anyone who's just carrying on. I mean, I realise that might be a just necessity, or that you're in jobs that you have to. But I just think
I'd love to hear from them if there are listeners. If you are a listener and you are carrying on as normal, come into the Facebook group and tell us about it.
Yeah, please do. We'd love to hear from you and salute you, because it's just, I don't know how people are emotionally dealing with it when they have to. I suppose that helps, doesn't it? If you have to get up and go out and go and do a job, it probably helps.
Oh, I think it might be quite frightening depending on what your job is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. We got Irving sent us masks from his girlfriend's dental surgery the other day in case we have to go to the co-op and they don't let us in without a mask.
Is that likely to happen?
Yeah, they're talking about making mask wearing when you go to supermarkets mandatory.
Okay.
It's more to protect the people working there than anything else.
I'm not sure why anybody would want to go to a supermarket. I suppose it's if you can't get a delivery, isn't it?
Yeah, and lots of people live in areas where deliveries don't work. But we're now starting to talk about another topic entirely. So let's
Indeed.
bring it to a close today.
Yeah. All right, babe. See you next week.
See you next
Okay.
week.
Bye.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.